Good morning, everybody. This is Lorenzo and Kaushal here with Socially In, ready to get into another episode where we're going to be going over a few things, what's trending in social media, what's kind of new, what do we see for the foreseeable future. And as usual, we got another jam-packed session here. As y'all know, the world of social is always changing. This session is going to be no different. So without further ado, Kaushal, let's kind of dive in today.
Welcome, everybody. It's good to see you all again. Lorenzo was saying, I think there's a lot of stuff that's just been happening, and we're excited to talk about a few of the things with you all today. Really, three big topics that we want to cover, which is, what's happening in the world of social, specifically on the platforms. We want to give you a little bit more tactical advice. I know a lot of you may be coming to this episode to our podcast really for some of that social nitty gritty.
Yep.
So we want to be able to give you some of that. We want to talk about the biggest thing in the industry that everyone's definitely talking about, which is AI, and kind of what we're seeing on our end. I know we've touched upon it the last one or two episodes. And last, we really want to talk about just being agency owners and being entrepreneurs and being in this world of business, what many other people probably have kind of gone through over the last 6 months, and really what we've gone through and how we've adapted, and really what the outcomes for the next 6 months that we're looking forward to, and the adjustments that we're going to make to achieve those outcomes. So it's a jam-packed episode. We're excited. And let's kick it off, Lorenzo. We're going to start off with the platforms. Obviously, we can go many, many different ways with the platforms. Where do you think we should get started with that?
Let's start with one that I'm super excited about. It's something that we've dealt with companies that are dealing with it. We deal with it ourselves, in our team meeting. This just got brought up again, and I think it's the update from LinkedIn, big update as far as verification, identity verification and employment verification. So for everyone who doesn't know, LinkedIn is going to be, I believe they're partnering with Clear.
Yes, they are.
To confirm people's identities. It's basically a twofold kind of initiative. The first one is to verify real people. As we all know, between the use of bots and spam and fake profiles and all of this different stuff over the past 18 months, it's just run rampant on LinkedIn. So the first goal is to verify real people. And then the second thing is actually to verify employment. That's something that I don't know, for anybody who has a little bit larger of an agency, you'll start to notice that if you go and look at your employees, you may start to see that there are some people who do not actually work for you. And even more frustrating is you actually have to go by and one by one report them for like misinformation and go through all of this. It's a process. LinkedIn doesn't even always remove it. So sometimes you have to go in and report people multiple times. I was reading a report from Apple and some larger companies like that, dude, who had like 4,000 and 10,000 fake employees and different things on their page. Like nobody has time to one-on-one reporting and blocking. There was no math way to do it. You couldn't fill out a form. You literally had to do it per individual profile. So that's a big update that I'm particularly excited about, especially because I'm an avid user of LinkedIn. I get so many messages from profiles that are clearly, I won't say bot profiles, but they're clearly just used to just DM and just mass DM. There's no activity on them. There's no real history on them. So this is an update on LinkedIn I'm personally super excited about.
I couldn't agree more. And it's a lot different than what the other platforms have done with verification, where LinkedIn is not offering a paid service. It is completely free. I was actually looking at it on my phone this morning when I was at the dentist. I was looking at it and I was verifying myself. So very easy, simple process as well. But it's not a subscription type model. I really don't believe it incentivizes your account in any type of way outside of the fact that it shows that you're verified, which I believe everybody cares about, some verification to some extent nowadays. And then it mainly for business owners and companies and organizations, it will help with, the fakeness of, people representing the organization. And I think that's huge, because you'd be surprised how many people fall for, the scams and the things that when they don't have clarity around, if something is real or not. And I know that that's been a long time problem on LinkedIn specifically. So I'm super excited about it. The other verifications on the other platforms, like we've all noticed, are paid subscriptions. They do have incentives. They will allow, more exposure, and they will allow promotional things that other people don't have access to, like Twitter ads, for example. I didn't know about this till very recently, but as an organization, you're not allowed to run Twitter ad campaigns unless you become a verified organization on Twitter,
Yep.
which is $1,000 a month at minimum. So, it's a lot of things that have changed in some of those platforms. LinkedIn is still kind of staying true to, them being that, it's free to the sense of, the verification goes, and it really being based off authenticity of, who you are as an individual. So I'm excited about it. I encourage everybody to try it out and see if it's available. It's rolling out in phases, but
I was about to say, yeah, I think they when they first rolled it out, they rolled it out with like 4,000 companies or something like that. And then they're slowly but surely rolling it out to everybody. So if you can't do it yet, it will be eventually coming down the pipeline for it. But I definitely think if you use LinkedIn to actively engage business, I think it's actually an important update. It's one of the things that I do because I am so active on it. One of the very first things I do when somebody engages me is I look to try to see if there's any of those red flags. It's immediately the first thing that I do. So I look forward to not having to maybe go through all of those steps because if you've taken the time to kind of do this, it helps me start to build a little bit more of that trust that I've kind of lost in the process. I'm sure there's people out there that have also kind of lost kind of trust in the process where LinkedIn used to be, you knew it was about business. You knew when people engaged, people were serious about it. And then all of a sudden, like I said, you have whole farms and different things like that where people just put up 10, 15 fake profiles and just mass and play the quantity game. So
100%.
I look forward to hopefully not having to go through so much of that process, but you always got to do your diligence. I mean, that's one thing that we always know. When it comes to AI, some of the things that we'll talk about, you still got to do your diligence now more than ever, and no matter what we're talking about. Just that simple.
Yeah, it goes back to all those people that are like, social media is evil, and I'm like, no, social media has facilitated so much. It's really still about you as a human being at the end of the day, doing your due diligence, protecting yourselves, protecting your family if it's coming down to that. But people always like to put the blame game on something. So I believe social media is a big culprit.
Accountability isn't everybody's strong suit. I'll just leave it at that.
For sure. Awesome. Yeah, but so the LinkedIn verification, huge. I think like Lorenzo said, it should be rolling out to everybody over the next few months. Let's continue to move along with the platforms. Another big thing that I think brands and creators and individuals and honestly everybody should be thinking about is TikTok. I believe Montana, if I'm not mistaken, recently banned TikTok to where I think they said they were.
I've seen this. I've seen a lot of universities in Florida. There's a few other places that I've been trying to follow closely. But yeah. Sorry to cut you off, but yeah, no, there's a few places that are starting to ban it. I think one of the first things I think about is how to enforce that. That's 100%. One of the immediate things that I start to think about, whether it's you talk about people who commute in and out of those different places. I think enforcement of that is going to be very interesting. So TikTok continues to be a platform that's working for people. I mean, it's only growing. It's only getting bigger.
100%.
It's going to be something to monitor. I mean, that's all you can really do. I think we talked about it a few episodes ago where if you are using TikTok and it is a money-making platform and you do have a pretty significant audience, I definitely encourage you to start to kind of shift and include that audience in other platforms, whether it's things like YouTube and things like that. Easy places you can duplicate your content. Again, it's not talking about restarting over your strategy, but I definitely think that it's always better to be safe than sorry with that. But as we're about to get into some things here, it's continuing to innovate. It's continuing to say, what are the things that other platforms are doing that we also need to incorporate, which is what all social media does. No feature is ever safe, as I like to tell people when it comes to social media. As soon as one platform does it and it starts to rock and roll, you can bet within 3 months to a year, the other platforms are at least going to beta test and kind of try a version of it. So getting right into it. The new thing that TikTok is really starting to potentially lean into is TikTok Live. It's going crazy on Instagram. It's going crazy on Facebook. LinkedIn even allows people to do it. I don't even know if people even know that you could do LinkedIn Live. You do have to have what's called creator mode activated on it. But when you do LinkedIn, you can go live on now. So again, TikTok wasn't going to kind of miss that boat. So
I agree. I think obviously all of us have seen the evolution of live through some of these other platforms, but it always at some point becomes a thing that each of the platform, really emphasizes. And I do believe now, whether you're a brand or whether you're, like I said, an influencer or a creator, it's going to be very important for you to consider building your audience, going live. And I think it's just that authentic approach of, what
yep.
as social media itself has kind of evolved, and people want to see more and more of really like the real behind the scenes and what's happening in people's lives. I think that's really what people thrive on. So I've seen it already. Many people have done it. It's not a new thing. It is something that I believe certain creators have already adapted, but I don't think enough of brands and businesses and individuals are utilizing it. But if you go and you see the people that are playing different games or asking different questions and things of that nature on TikTok, they're already doing this. So you don't have to do that. I think one of the hardest things that people are having when it comes having a hard time understanding when it comes to going live is, what are they going to do, or what are they going to talk about, or what are they going to put on the live. And I think that's something really, I think maybe fear for a lot of people, but something that prevents them from doing it, even if you are a brand or a business that's trying to do it. But I think a lot of the things are, you got to think about what people want, right? They want entertainment, they want value, and they want education sometimes. And, that can kind of fall under that value ladder as well. But if you're somebody who can kind of find something within those buckets, and they're very large buckets, so there's many things that people can think about and businesses can think about. But if you can do that, and you can start to understand what your audience is looking for, whether it's even documenting, whether it's in-depth, dives, kind of like the podcast here where we're going into social media, whether it's entertainment and it's something fun around your industry. Maybe we did something around the latest features on each social media platform, and we did a live where we were showcasing how that new feature works. Very simple things that I do think people can find value in, or even entertainment in, that can kind of fall under your niche or your specialty or whatever it is that you may be doing. But I think live is huge, and I'm encouraging everybody that I know to try it out and kind of take a taste of it themselves.
Yeah, and I think you said two things. I think the first one is it's just more authentic. We keep talking about this world of AI, where your voice can be taken and manipulated, where all of these different things can start to happen to things like that. It's not quite to the point where it can take what we're doing right now, put that live, and take this whole different thing and manipulate that. So I think there's just that genuineness, there's that authenticity. I think one shift that's happened over and it's been going on for a couple of years. I don't think it's new. People care about different things when it comes to your business now. People used to just care, can your business deliver a service that I'm looking for at a price that I'm looking for, and the quality of it. Those were pretty simple things. What you did behind the scenes, how you treated people, who you were as a person, that stuff didn't used to matter nearly as much as it matters now. People care about the people behind the brands. People care about the names behind the brands, the faces behind the brands. They want to see that different type of stuff, So yes, I think if we're talking about actionable things to consider, I think first off is try all of those stuff. If you're not quite sure when it comes to kind of that live strategy, take a step back and try it all to start. Don't pigeonhole yourself.
For sure.
Let's do something where maybe it's a webinar. Maybe it's a Q&A session with one of your leaders.
100%.
Try different people. Don't just put one person out there. Try different faces, different voices where you're doing things like that. Behind the scenes, I think that's also something that's really cool. We know people care about the behind the scenes. People care now about how the sausage is made, as they kind of per se. What's it look like? What's a day in the life look like for a lot of this different type of stuff? So I think those are some really easy things to kind of start with. As far as if you don't know what to go live about, start with those things. But again, I also encourage people, try it all. Really start to see what resonates with your audience. There's no better test than to execute it, look at some of the data, and then go. And also be consistent. Start to do it with a plan. Don't do it one time and say, well, I didn't get a lot of people who are watching it, so let's just go ahead and scratch that. Try different things, like test the different days, test the different time of day that you're actually doing it, all of those different things. But, if I'm being vulnerable, for us, live is probably something that we probably should even start to execute a little bit more. I think we do a good job with
100%.
webinars. I think we do a good job. I have our social selling tip of the week that we do on LinkedIn. Nisha, our creative director, has our TWISM that we put on Instagram. So I think we're putting out that stuff, but I think we could even probably do a better job of going live and engaging people in real time in that moment.
I 100% agree. And really always comes down, and this is the nature of social media, where I think it's super important, if you're in the space and you actually have a job in social media, the thing that is hard and that is not a commodity is being able to do all of these things, because social media it just requires that. And I think that's what a lot of people don't grasp is like, I'm sure everybody is very strategic. They're smart. They're thinking about, tactically, what they should be doing. But in reality, to be great on social is to do all of these things. And it just really comes down to the resources. It does come down to the creative eye. It does come down to the angle of the story that you're presenting. And I think people are shying away from those things because those are the hard things about social. And they're like, hey, I'm posting, but I'm not seeing the results. And I'm ultimately trying to tell them, it's like, sure, but it's because you're not thinking about the other things that are important when it comes to doing a great job on social media. So I think that's what my advice to people would be, is like, definitely lean into all of the new things. Give a story behind it. Start to be thoughtful about the creative aspect. Like I said, if you're providing entertainment or actual value, and if you are going to incorporate that into your posting, I believe you will start to see a difference. But like a Sour Patch Kid, it won't happen tomorrow. It'll be sour as fuck at first, but it gets sweet later. So
100%. Got to be consistent. Yep.
Yeah, 100%. All right. So, we talked a little bit about LinkedIn. Like I said, I still love LinkedIn. There's a lot of opportunity there. Making sure that you're consistently posting. Organic reach is still, super powerful. From an ad side of things, I think brands really, especially in the B2B space, can be super tactical with, account-based marketing and things of that nature, where they're able to get right in front of the brand that they're needing to advertise to or want to close. So there's a lot of opportunity, even to the individual level there, that I believe people can take a approach on. And even as LinkedIn has started to become more of an interest graph as well around topics, there are other options to get in front of people and attract people, even outside of the directly, B2B space. But I think LinkedIn, a lot of huge potential. TikTok, like we talked about, definitely pay attention to what's happening. But I think overall, you have to lean in, you have to grasp it, you have to watch it, you have to try all of these different features and kind of educate yourself and learn, what's happening there. Let's hop over to, I guess, Meta. Meta is a big one. We're not going to dive into, I don't think, all the socials. We really want to give you all like the biggest gist of really what's happening. Let's actually take one step back. Let's hop over to YouTube and Shorts and just that space, because I think it can lead into what we're talking about for Meta here in a second. But YouTube, man, still a huge opportunity. I think people are missing out on when it comes to Shorts, because they're treating it very similar to TikTok. I think people have started to grasp the aspect of like, hey, at least I need to be posting on there, so I am giving people some kudos and brands some kudos for at least knowing that, hey, I need to be some sort of relevant here. But they're not taking that next step of really differentiating it from their TikTok strategy. Because the aspect that people are still missing, and TikTok is getting closer and closer and better at this, but isn't quite there yet, is the search aspect and the keyword aspect and the topic aspect that Google still has, being the parent company of YouTube. So what are your thoughts on Shorts specifically? I know it's something that we, even as an agency, haven't really quite diving quite deep into yet. But I have seen the opportunity. My wife, ironically, utilized it and has seen some success. And I think overall, it's still a medium that people are under leveraging. So what are your thoughts?
Yes, I think you said two things. I think that there is almost two kind of stages to starting to get into YouTube Shorts. I think there is the just being there because you need to be there to kind of start off with. And I think there is a little bit of validity to there. I think there is a little bit
100%.
of, like I said, the reposting, again, transferring your audience over. But to your point, if it's something that you want to consistently invest in, I think you'd be very remiss to not start to take into effect that YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, next to only Google, and what that actually means from like an SEO standpoint. I don't even know if people realize that you can start to execute some of those tactics on YouTube and different things like that, and what that actually means for if you are properly doing your keywords, if you are properly optimizing these videos and optimizing your pages, what that means for the growth of this. And I think that's the other element that is important. It's not just being there. If you're going to be there, how do you actually start to grow it? Some of the tactics that you're talking about can actually start to grow it organically. So you don't always have to put these paid dollars and paid ad dollars behind it, because paid ad dollars aren't going as far as they used to go, as we also know. So if you can actually start to, yes, it helps. Yes, it kind of helps go quickly. But if you can really wrap your head around your organic strategy, again, from the keyword, from an SEO perspective on things like YouTube, I think that now is the time for you absolutely to tap into it. Yeah, just that simple. So no, I think you hit the nail right on the head right there, actually.
Yeah, and I think still in the space of creators, because YouTube had this long time, I don't want to call it a fad, but just a persona of long form content, right? Which it still is in its traditional sense. And I think because shorts is a little bit more of a play on that short form take of the Instagram reels and the TikToks, that people don't understand still, but in its true and pride of what it's known for, which is that search aspect of things, and exactly like you said, being that second largest search engine in the world. So just want people to be a little bit more thoughtful, even if you are posting the same thing from TikTok or Instagram reels. Just be thoughtful about what you're titling it, and what the description is saying, just because you do want to be a little bit more keyword driven versus TikTok and Instagram. So that's a bit. I didn't want to skip over YouTube, just because I don't believe enough people are still taking a shot at it. But I'm encouraging it. But let's segue into Meta, like we were mentioning. A lot of exciting stuff happening in the world
There
of
is.
Meta, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Oculus, many different things. The AI division that they started, Meta AI, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a beast in its own. Where do you want to get started as far as the Meta goes?
Well, we can start with something that I sent you all of you and Keith, our CEO, a few weeks ago. And something that I've been following, and it's something that Meta is starting to really invest into. They've started to open source a piece of AI that they're calling ImageBind. So the idea behind ImageBind is to absolutely think more. How do I want to say it? Take more of the I think they're positing as take more of the human senses. So when we think about certain things, we're taking more than just one element to it. We're taking more than just an image. We're taking more than just an audio. We're taking more than these things. So when you're truly talking about creating new next level dynamic AI, they're starting to invest in AI that can take into account all of these things. So now when I want to start to do things like create images and things like that, there are multiple different things to take into account. So not only the image, but now you can actually put in audio. You can actually start to put things like the background. You can actually start to take all of these other types of senses, essentially, that we have, video, image, audio, text, and then use all of those things to now start to create a new dynamic image. It's pretty cool. Some of the things that they're demoing from it and how you're going to be able to actually use it to create new things. I love this type of stuff. So I think ImageBind is a good place to start. Have you been able to kind of look into it at all by chance?
And ironically, doing a little bit something different on this episode. I actually wanted to show the people, and since we have that capability, yes. So to your answer, I have played around with it very recently, actually, just because I knew we were going to talk about it a little bit on the episode, and I wanted to get a taste of it myself. But it is insanely cool, and I just want to show people here real quick what it really was, because I understand when it comes to AI, it's easy to sometimes explain it, but the understanding of it for people it's sometimes it goes over their head. So I wanted to kind of give a little bit of a visual to the audience here, but ultimately, exactly as Lorenzo was saying, is it's taking the different senses where AI, a lot of AI right now, what you're doing is you're prompting it to do something, specifically the one that is creating imagery. And through that prompt or through the information and context of the prompt, it's able to generate something. What this does is take it to the next level, the same way human beings are able to, through all of our different senses, and print you out something or print you out something like it's a printer pretty much, but create something that you would probably use as a creative piece without you having to actually, create it from scratch. And so here's a few of the different examples that Lorenzo was talking about. First is an image to audio. So here you have an image of a dog, a tiger, and a bird. And if I were to click on one, it generates two different audios of a tiger roaring. Like it automatically knows through this image, the AI can pick up that it's a tiger, it's in the wilderness, and this is what a tiger in the wilderness sounds like, and it creates these. And I would play these, but you're not going to be able to hear them through the headphones, but it creates that audio just from the image. That's the, first, essentially use case. The second use case is the audio into an image. So here, an individual, or in this case, Meta has uploaded sounds of birds singing, a dog barking, or a train. And if you click on it, it creates the image from the sound. So this is insane. I didn't even think about this. It's like if I'm a brand and I'm looking for something that resonates with my audience when it comes to sound. And let's say there's a representation of our brand and it is, animals. Let's just say animal. I'm a, pet company and animals is my brand. And I'm looking for something to create. And I can just upload a sound of a bird or a dog or of a cat. And it creates an image out of it automatically for me without me having to give it any information. Now, I think one of the things that people are probably telling you and I right now, Lorenzo, is like, but that doesn't even sound, that interesting just because if I can find a picture of a cat on fucking Google, right? So it's
Right.
like, what are you even talking about here? But really where it starts to get interesting is when you're able to combine all of these things. So this is a really cool use case. It's a text. So here, if you just type in drums, what it's able to do is create an image with the sound. And this is where it starts to get fun because you're going to start to add motion to things and you're able to really cultivate more of a real visual just through textual inputs by just giving it as much feedback, as much prompting as possible, rather than, like I said, what AI does right now, which is you give it a prompt and it's able to just create an image. This is tying in those different senses of sound and audio and image and etc. So here's another good one where they combine two different things. They combined the audio with an image and it was able to create an image of that. So they were like, hey, I need to see a picture of water pouring ultimately on apples. And it was able to do that. So
Dude,
this
it's
just
cool.
allows,
It's awesome.
yeah, very simple inputs to create something. And I think that's the specific use case. Sure, there are ways that, you still have to manipulate these or that you need to apply a little bit of creativity towards them. But something that people are probably taking a little bit of time to cultivate right now, just through a few simple inputs, they'll be able to create these things. So I think it's more of a commodity that people don't realize, one, and then two, it's going to be something that extremely emphasizes efficiencies around just the creative process for brands, for businesses,
Yeah.
for agencies, etc.
I mean, like anything, this is V1. So I always get excited when I'm looking at things like AI and things like that about what the potential is because people see V1 and people are immediately like poking all these holes in it and things like that, which is
For
great.
sure.
That's what you're supposed to do. I'm thinking about the potential and what like V3, V4, and V5 is actually going to look like once they actually are able to go through the things that aren't working, continue to evolve it, continue to add more and more and more depth to it. In 6 months, what ImageBind will start to be able to do for us. That's the type of stuff that I get excited about it. So right now it is a little bit more basic, for lack of a better term.
Right.
But again, what it's going to potentially be and its potential use cases in the future can truly be next level and game changing.
I agree. We've learned, we're actually going to get into the topic of AI here, like I mentioned earlier. So, but you've learned so much recently around the world of AI that I'm just like, I think we said this on the last episode, you and I both, Lorenzo, where it's like, you just have to lean in. You have to educate. Have to. The world is going to change. It's just like the train. People rode horses until cars and trains and things came about. It's just like the internet. It's just like all of these things that continue to evolve. And technology doesn't have or play favorites for anybody. Technology is technology, and so I'm telling people that don't be scared. Lean in, understand it, and you'll understand how it's going to play a big role in the future of all of our lives. Because right now it's for the geeks and the nerds and the people who are bought in deep. When it becomes a commodity in your everyday use, people will be surprised at how much improvement it does to the everyday life of individuals. So, all right, so let's keep diving in the world of Meta. I think there was a few more things that we wanted to chat about. So we've talked about ImageBind in the AI space. We want to we do want to segue into AI here in a second, but we still want to focus on Meta and the new Meta Quest 4 that they've actually launched. Ironically, I believe this morning. They'll have a conference about it soon where they're going to release more details. But Instagram, has the new channels feature that a lot of people have started incorporating. Mark Zuckerberg obviously utilizes it, and I'm a part of that channel with amongst many others that he's dropping this, behind the scenes like kind of content to, first announcements, et cetera, and he dropped the Meta Quest 4 this morning. I saw it on there, and I was taking a look at it. And for those that may not be familiar with the Oculus and the Meta Quest and this whole VR space, I'll give you a little bit of background. But Oculus focuses in the VR world, and they create headsets very similar to a lot of the other, prominent companies out there that are doing VR, like Sony, like Microsoft, like Google, etc. But they created a headset that has virtual reality, and one of the latest innovations in virtual reality is the concept of mixed reality, where what's happening around you is tied in, with the virtual aspect. A lot of people confuse it with augmented reality, where technology nowadays has allowed for that augmentation to kind of happen as well. But mixed reality is really a variation of the virtual reality versus reality, I guess, if you want to call it, and it combines the two. So you and I talked about it, Lorenzo, I believe on our very first episode when we were in person, that the Meta Quest, or sorry, not the Meta Quest, the Meta Pro that they recently launched, the $1,500 device that I said that I was going to get, and I actually did not end up getting. Probably a good investment. I still had the Quest 3 sitting right there on the floor. But it's still there. It's still insanely powerful. It does a lot more than the Meta Quest 4, but the Meta Quest 4 is a variation of the Meta Quest 3 with improvements, better speed, with the mixed reality component. And I think it starts at $499, and that's about all of the research I've honestly done at this point. So I'm interested to learn more. And I know you probably didn't know about it until now we're just talking about it. But what are your thoughts now that it's a little bit more affordable and you understand what the more expensive version could kind of do, and this is like a sweet middle ground? Are you gonna buy it this time?
So two thoughts on it. My first thought is that one of the things that I love that it does is something that I've always said I can't wait to do, and it's to play virtual reality Madden.
Yes.
It's one of the for years I always said as soon as I can play virtual reality Madden, and I can be the quarterback, and I can do that in my living room. So I think that's one of the coolest updates that it has from a gaming perspective. And I'm personally not a big gamer. Little things like that will make me want to invest in it and make me want to get it. I think that's super cool. Also, full transparency, my Oculus is also currently sitting on the floor. I go through stages, man, where it's like about every 2 months on a Saturday morning, I'll wake up, it'll be, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, nothing's really going on. And I'll say, you know what? Let me kind of put my headset on. But I will say that every time I do it, I love it. Every single time I do it. It's never one of those things where I put on and I just immediately take it off. Like I always end up playing games for literally a couple hours. And I'm like, why don't I take more time to do this? And I know what the answer is, but I really do enjoy it. So I do look forward to it. I'm glad it is a little more affordable, just because of the time spent to it. I'm personally not going to drop $1,500 on something to touch maybe once every 2 months and things like that. So with this new one, it is something that I do want to do. It does remind me of two things. It reminds me of CES that we went to earlier this year in January. And then it
Yep.
reminds me of South by Southwest, where a lot of, oh man, I just lost not Accenture, it was Accenture. Accenture had an extremely cool mixed reality kind of demo and some things that they were doing. So I look forward to seeing not only the advancements as far as gaming and things like that, but in other aspects of what mixed reality could really start to do, especially if it does become a little bit more affordable. I even think about, one idea that we had when Oculus first rolled out, and they were first playing around with the idea of true virtual meeting spaces, where you were literally supposed to be able to create almost like a digital office, create these characters. Everybody puts on their headset, go in and go into an office. Well, they didn't really build it out kind of like we wanted it to build out. And that's one of the things that they're supposed to be building out in this new version of it, is the ability to actually do co-working spaces. That true type of things where you can do a digital office. For how cool would it be where instead of having our meetings on Zoom, we actually put on our Oculus, go into our virtual meeting room together, sit down on the couch, and actually sit there and have a kind of conversation like that. I think some of those things have potential to be really, really cool, actually.
I agree too. And it's something that I crave for, after the pandemic. A lot of people don't know this about our agency, but, we were in person for really the first, 6 years, 7 years of our existence. Pretty much half of, I guess at this point, almost half of it we've lived in the post-pandemic, not really post-pandemic world, but this kind of like virtual world, so to say. A little bit less than half, but a lot of it we were in the office for our first few years. And when we lost, and I don't know if other agencies are like this, I have a good indication or feeling that they may be, but because it's such a creative space, because it's such a space of collaboration and diverse, thoughts and personalities and individuals, and that's what, really what makes it unique when we're thinking about marketing and helping brands and, what they're doing and taking it to the next level when it comes to communication. I think people don't understand or sometimes forget that a lot of that happens because of the in-person interaction and, being around it and picking up on things. And at least I do. And I can't speak for everybody because I do know that there's no going back to a 100%. I know there have been organizations and, entities that have essentially started to require that. But I think for us, it's always going to be a true hybrid. And there's obviously, pros and cons, but we've been a big fan of the pros, and also being able to recruit talent, globally. But I do believe that this mixed reality piece and this piece of starting to incorporate business uses into it is going to be huge. And we did something like this. And like I said, it's still in the early days, which is why I guess I know it makes sense why people haven't adopted it quite much. But in our organization, I forget the name of the website, we had a guy, our art director, Grant, actually, where he created a world where, we could hop into the world on our internet and, go into it, and we can meet together in like different rooms in the world. And we could have like meetings where we could talk to each other, we could pop up a video where we could start to see each other. And it wasn't like a full aspect of the VR yet, because there was still, on the internet, but there was ways where we were kind of incorporating virtual with, the hybrid, space that we live in now. But I'm super fascinated of doing exactly what you talked about, which is popping my headset on, seeing you in the same room as me if we were going to a meeting, and just being like, hey, what's up, and getting into it. And I think that a lot of the things that we lost to that in person can be brought back through this with the incentives of being, a remote or a hybrid organization. Will it truly take away the in-person approach? Not immediately. But the closer we get to Ready Player One mode, I don't know if people have seen that movie, but the closer we get to that, it's going to feel just like if you're hanging out with people all the time. So I'm excited about it.
Those are good points. Those are some good points.
All right. Let's see. We're actually running. I think we've talked about a good bit of stuff. I think we're running a little bit out of time here soon, but I think let's still dive quickly into this AI. I think we did want to dive a little bit into the agency world, and we can probably save that for the next episode. I know my entrepreneurs there are maybe a little bit upset at me for saying that right now, but we'll get it for you all, I promise. Let's dive into AI real quickly before we close out. So AI has been the fad, not only in the, I got to stop calling it a fad. It's not a fad. AI is Yeah, AI is here. It's loud. It's
It's to
making
stay.
strides. Yeah, it's making strides in the industry. Um, from the stock market to the tech world to the social platforms to pretty much encompassing each and everything that you can think about, even the healthcare system and the government and etc. So let's dive into it. I guess we're really the approach that we want to take when it comes to AI is what we're seeing in the world of social and AI and really the different things. But I'm happy to even talk about Lorenzo because I know that you've used it personally for a multitude of different reasons. But let's just take it anywhere, honestly. Where do we want to go with AI? Um, and let's see where it ends.
Yeah, so I think when I was thinking about this conversation today, I think there's a few things that I've been really using AI for that I think is just it's been coming truly next level. So there's a few points I wanted to bring up. The first thing is we can start with ChatGPT because, as you know, that's something that I spend a ton of time on. And I think it's really cool because it's evolving for everybody who doesn't have a paid subscription. I think it's one of the best $20 that I've spent in a very long time. Some of the
Agreed.
most recent updates it's actually allowed are everything from there's a new web browsing feature. So
Agreed.
obviously one of the limitations to ChatGPT 3 and ChatGPT 3.5 was that it only was able to surf the web for data up to 2021. With
Right.
with the paid version in ChatGPT 4, it actually searches live. So I could literally throw in a site right now and it will live scrape and live analyze a site. The implications for
Yep.
that, as you already know, are truly next level. There's some really cool things you can do with that. Number two,
I agree.
there's an extremely cool thing that they've launched with ChatGPT 4 called Code Interpreter. Y'all, Code Interpreter is a potential game changer.
Game
Code
changer.
Interpreter essentially allows you to now upload CSV files and then have ChatGPT actually analyze your data. We were testing everything from let's actually download our timesheets for all of our team, upload it and start to get questions about like billable hours and who has the most billable hours and utilization
Yep.
rates and actually upload things about client data, client utilization and client hours that are spent and things like that. So it's allowing us to actually analyze so much large amounts of data in a much quicker time and then to kind of take it from there. And then third thing from a very technical update that I've loved about an update in ChatGPT is their use of plugins. Every single day you log into it now, there's another page of all these different plugins, everything from things like Expedia. You can actually launch an Expedia plugin, but you can actually ask ChatGPT, I need to get the cheapest flight to ATL and a rental car tomorrow through Sunday. Find that for me. Boom. It'll go and do things like that. Things like DoorDash, literally all types of different plugins. The second thing I've really started to take as far as my usage of AI to the next level is really deep diving into what everybody's calling the prompt engineering. And prompt engineering, for people who don't know, it's the idea of the words that you're using to create the inputs that generate certain outputs on a very simple level. There's very basic prompts. I need you to act as, I'm going to do this, and then I need you to do something else as a result of that. I've been really studying some next level prompt engineering type of things. And one of the things that's really starting to help, not just in business life and in personal life, is there's a lot more things you can do with problem solving that I've learned from AI that I didn't realize that you can do. I was just doing some studies on what's called the tree of thought. The tree of thought methodology as far as giving prompt engineering some prompts. And basically what it's allowing you to do is, as opposed to asking a tool, giving it a prompt to ask one question, I'm going to give it a question, it spits out one answer. What you're actually doing is you're going to help teach it to think more like a human would think. Humans don't just think in one train. Humans take a step back and say, there's multiple options. When Kaushal asked me, what do I think about something? There's multiple things that I think about it. There's pros and cons. So I'm thinking maybe there's 3 or 4 options. Each of those 3 to 4 options actually has pro or cons. And then from those pros and cons, how do we actually start to assess a confidentiality? I'm sorry, a confidence score, a predictability of success and different things like that. So that's the new method that I've been doing, is actually using it for problem solving. I've been using it to more brainstorm. So again, obviously, I love hearing your thoughts and stuff, love hearing Keith's thoughts, love hearing our team's thoughts and stuff. But it's actually really cool to actually put some of the things that we're dealing with in a tool like AI and say, you help me think through this. So here's a
100%.
problem I have. Here are all the things. Here are all the factors I want you to consider in this problem.
Yep.
Give me a few different options.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just start to have a true
Brainstorm.
conversation.
I love that.
Literally,
I love that.
it helps brainstorm. And so then it helps me take a step back and say, I actually didn't think about that. I actually didn't think about that con. I actually didn't think about that use case, and then kind of take a step back. So I think one of the things that we keep reiterating about AI is that it's not going to take over things. One thing I think you said a couple calls ago, and I think it was crucial. It's your job isn't going to be replaced by AI, but you will be replaced by a person who is using AI.
For sure.
Again, it's not that it's supposed to stop you from thinking. It's not supposed to take away the human and the logic aspect of it. But man, you are truly missing out if you're not using it to amplify. Make sure you're not missing anything, taking the things that you already think, expounding on it, taking it to a new level, saying, hey, this is what I think. What did I miss? What are the cons about what I thought? What are those things? Sometimes it's validating. Sometimes you're like, boom, I'm on the right path. I knew that. It's confirming. And then sometimes it's like, shoot, I actually did not think of that. And that's actually a super good point for me to make sure I take into consideration. So from an AI,
100%.
those are some of the next level things that I've kind of be excited about is their integrations and plugins into more everyday life. You know, we keep talking business. It's integrating into the personal things like I use about the travel. I just saw another one. I can't think of the name of it right now. You may know it, but it even allows you to do recipes. It even allows you to do things like this, dude. You can actually have it make a shopping list, recipes from your shopping list, and it can build out all of that stuff for certain diet plans and different things like that. So like it's now taking that next step to actually be helpful in what we do on a day-to-day basis in personal life. So those 100%. Are some of the new next level things that I'm kind of excited about.
I'm maybe mistaken about this, but because I haven't done research on it myself, but I would not be surprised if it does exist. But I've started to hear that the AI that they've started to kind of play around with, even because they're starting to play around with it in hardware as well, right? Like obviously a lot of the software and things that we use, like ChatGPT, we're able to at our fingertips, pull it up, but other hardware things like stuff in your home and stuff like the TVs and your home itself, even to an extent. But I've heard about refrigerators or manufacturers or refrigerator companies where they're using AI to first understand what is it that you commonly buy, so that way when you're running low or it's running out, it creates that shopping list for you. Like you don't even have to think about it. It'll automatically be like, hey, you're running low on milk. And how they're able to do that. And then also it can scan what's in your fridge and create recipes of things you can make based on what's actually in your fridge. Because my problem is I'm always like, damn, I ain't got shit to make. And my wife's like, no, all you had to do was boom, 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 boom. And you could have made this. And I was like, whatever. So
no, dude, like, you're 100% right, dude. It's super cool. And I was actually reading some of the same things. I found that part actually interesting, what the recipes based upon stuff, because I go through the same thing. And then I was reading, they're even taking it one step further than that, where they're even you can even order it. So not only is it analyzing, not only is it doing that based upon predictability, but once you start to run out of milk, it's already putting in an order for you. So all you got to do is walk by, go and pick that bad baby up.
Boom. Yeah, that's epic. It's epic. And that's what I tell people where, they got to lean in. I was just at VCon, for those of people that don't know what VCon is and that, follow Gary Vaynerchuk, amazing conference. Encourage everybody to go next year, for VCon 2024. But I was listening to a talk and it was Damon John and Stephen Bartlett. And I'm sure those are two familiar names that many people have heard about. If not, you can Google it. But they were talking about AI, one of the things, because they were talking about their journey and their growth. And, one of the things that they mentioned was, the adaptability, because Damon started in the industry, many ages ago. And he's like, one of the things that's been, crucial for him is, being able to adapt. And then Stephen Bartlett, huge young sensation, specifically also in the UK. But he's also, he was talking about his journey and, being young and understanding the younger generation and, really how, that generation thinks as well and how they're adapting to, the use cases of AI and incorporating it into their everyday lives. And the biggest thing that I go back to, and like, I don't think you and I could echo this enough or, talk about it enough, is so like, just got to lean in and try it. Like that whole simple refrigerator use case applies to every household. And probably nobody is thinking about it because all they're thinking about is what ChatGPT is doing and what the famous things in the media are talking about and what these influencers are putting out. And that's not to neglect all of the powerful capabilities, because the plugins are insane. I've started to dive deep into videos around, the different types of plugins, what are the best plugins, how they're adapting. And I think
man.
it's wild, but your everyday life is going to change, and it's going to slide by, and you're going to become your mom and dad, or even worse, your grandparents, when it comes to the adapting to the technology. And I don't want to knock the older generation by any means. There are definitely, parts of them that our generation has lacked, and the future generations have lacked as well. But the part that I definitely think we can learn from is not letting technology slip us by, because like I said, it's not going to stop. Like, there's nothing stopping it. So why wouldn't you embrace it? But yeah, AI is insane, and I've seen so many cool things. I looked at, I was playing around with ChatGPT the other day with the being portion, and it goes back to that last statement that you made right before I started talking, which was the human aspect of it isn't gone, and it's so real. And the only reason I knew this is because I still did my own research. Me and my wife are planning a anniversary trip. My anniversary is actually in June coming up, ironically, but we're planning a trip.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it. Planning a trip for later this year in December, and I was helping it plan my itinerary. And I like to do Europe in a way where I'm not stuck in one city or country. I like to kind of like always hop around. So this will be my third time doing that. And so I was kind of planning the itinerary and the trip that I'm thinking about, and I was giving it input. And I was telling it, hey, this is how many days I'm there for. These are the days. Can you break down the day-by-day itinerary for me? I want it to be romantic. I'm taking my wife here. The weather's going to be like this. Make sure that you're traveling from train to city isn't too long of a trip for. And I was kind of giving it all these inputs, and it spit something out very similar. And I wouldn't have done this typically. I think the way that AI is changing is people are automatically just going to default to it and kind of would have taken it for what it is. But thankfully, my wife is a planner, so she's always been the type of person that does research. So before I kind of used ChatGPT, because I was just interested to see what it would do for me, I did the research, and it put it together an honestly pretty 97% accurate itinerary. The mistake that it made was I gave it specific places that I was like, I need you to definitely incorporate these places. And it incorporated it, but it made the route a little bit weird. I told it to give me a circular route, and then instead it kind of gave me a little bit of a half circle, then like a little weird thing, and then kind of coming back around. And I was like, no, wouldn't it make more sense to go directly to here and then here, because that would be a better circle? And it literally was like, oh, you're actually right. Sorry about that. This is the improvised route. And the same thing happened when you and I did it with Keith. Remember when we were talking about the harvest and the decoding, and we were like, hey, it was saying this was the highest utilization, and then we were like, no, it looks like this one is, and you were like, hey, you're actually accurate. And so you always have to double check it. Right now, obviously, it'll get better and better, but it's not replacing humans yet. And I think until it starts to, because I think it will one day, embrace it, learn it, get on top of it. I can't echo, like I said, how much education you should be doing around it.
No, man, we're on the same page. I'm excited about everything that we've talked about in this call. It's like we always mention, the world of social media is always changing. So that's why it's important to kind of be on the ball with these trends. And so that's what we look forward to doing in these calls right here, hopefully. Educating you all, helping everybody be just a little bit more up to date with some of these things. Look forward to hearing everybody's feedback about topics that we could maybe take a deeper dive in. And like Kaushal said, next month and in our next call, we definitely want to spend a little bit of time talking about some of the lessons we've learned as entrepreneurs over the first 6 months, and some of the things that we're going to do different as agency owners going into the second half of the year. So look forward to kind of being a tad bit different, but hopefully still kind of providing that same value, that same kind of excitement and passion as we've been bringing.
I love it. I think you closed it off great, Lorenzo. So all I can say is Kaushal and Lorenzo out. Thank you for watching. Till next time.
Hey, appreciate y'all, man. Till next time.
Thank you.